Hey, I'm Caleb with YouCanMakeThisToo. In this video, I'll be going over how to make a flat tabletop, or really any flat wood panel glue up, where you're gluing wood edge to edge and you want it to come out flat. I've broken everything into 4 categories of mistakes that I've made, and all the tips I've learned to avoid making those mistakes. It's a lot of information, so I also consolidated it into an infographic on my website that you can download or print off to have with you as you go through this process. If there's anything I've missed, please make sure to leave a comment so I can learn and everyone else. And now let me show you how you can make this too. One obvious but often overlooked part of getting a flat tabletop is starting with flat lumber. Now I normally start with rough lumber because I have milling machines like a jointer and a planer. If you don't have them, that's okay. You have other options. I did a series on how to do the things these tools do, but without these big machines. You can also buy pre-milled lumber, normally called S4S if you go to Lumberyard. That stands for surfaced 4 sides. But you want to make sure you pick through the stacks. Just because it is S4S doesn't mean it hasn't sat there and kind of gone a little wonky, so make sure you check it really well and do know that you're going to be paying a lot more for that material. So if you have a few projects, the difference between rough lumber and milled lumber is probably going to quickly add up to the cost of some machines to mill it yourself. Now just because you spent the money on some nice machines doesn't mean your rough lumber is going to magically come out perfectly straight and flat once you run it through them. There are some techniques, I did a whole video on that I'll link to, but the short of it is you want to do your milling over multiple sessions. You don't want to take your rough lumber and go straight to your finished dimension, because as you mill this you're going to be removing a lot of material, which changes the equilibrium that the lumber has found itself in as you remove those fibers, so the tension has to come into a new balance with itself. So if you go all the way down and it moves, well, now there's no material left for you to remove without reducing the final thickness and dimensions that you'll be able to get. So you want to take off just enough to get it flat, let it sit at least a day, do it again, let it sit at least a day, and do it again. And before you even start that, you want to give your lumber a chance to acclimate to your shop. A week is good. If you can do 2 to 3 weeks, that's even better, because you don't know where it's stored. If it's been stored in a warehouse that isn't really climate controlled, then it's used to a different temperature and especially different humidity. So that acclimation time is going to give it time to make any movement that is going to just by adjusting to the new humidity and temperature. And of course, everyone has their own order that they like to mill things in. I like to start at the joiner, get a flat face and a flat edge, then go to the planer and the table saw. It can be really tempting to want to store your boards vertically in between the milling process. You want to find somewhere to lay them down, because otherwise if you store them vertically, they'll start to kind of get a cup to them just a little bit. But if you're trying to make a really flat tabletop, just that little bit is going to show up. The lumber is acclimated to my shop, and I've taken about a week to mill everything good and flat. So now it's time to lay out my tabletop and panel. So I decided which side is going to be the top side and how the panels are going to get grouped. And now I'm going to mark my joints. Now, a note on laying out your panels is you probably want to size it to whatever equipment you have. I have an 18-inch planer, so I have 9-inch boards, so when I glue them up I can have 2 18-inch panels. So I can take each of those panels and run them through my planer to completely flatten them out. So I also left these a little thick when I went through my first 3 millings, so I have that room to account for any issues I have with the glue up. If you still just have a 12-inch, I just upgraded, there's my 12-inch. Before, I'd use 3, 4, 6-inch boards and glue up 12-inch panels so I could run them through my 12-inch. So size to your equipment. And now I'm just gonna go through and alternate on each side of a joint. One is for the fence and one side will face me. And that is because my jointer isn't set perfectly 90. It's probably off just a hair. So by alternating how these get fed in, I'm going to cancel out any error. And the principle here is very simple geometry. Let's imagine these 2 pieces of paper are my wood pieces. They're at nice 90-degree squares, so if I glue those up, they're going to be nice and square. My jointer, though, may not be perfectly 90. So whenever my pieces go through, they might come out at a slight angle. Obviously not this bad, but let's say it's half a degree. Now, if I ran these boards through the same way, that error is going to compound, and as you can see, that's super not flat. But if you set it so they're complementary, then when you glue up, the error will cancel out, and you've got a flat board. Canceling out any error at our jointer or table saw is going to make for a flat top, but it has an unintended consequence when we clamp up, and that is these are going to want to slide against each other. That's why we want to use clamps or cauls to keep that from happening. What if you don't have a joiner? You watched my video on how to woodwork without a joiner, so you use some type of sled with your planer or hand planes to get your boards flat, and you've been edge jointing at a table saw. Well, you can still offset any error at your table saw blade because it's probably not perfectly 90 either. What you want to do though is when you mark both sides of your glue lines, you want to mark some for the cut to be on this side of the blade and then the rest for the cut to be on the other side of the blade, and just move your fence over. Of course, you'll want to group those, do all your cuts on one side, move the fence, then do all the cuts on the other side of the blade. And the same principle is going to apply where any error in your blade out of 90 is just going to offset itself. And if you don't have a joiner or table saw, you can of course always go old school with some hand planes at your bench. Just make sure you have a good square to keep checking square. So these cauls are really easy to make. This is a pair I just made, and they'll go across the glue up. So tabletop going this way, these go across, and just help keep everything flat. I normally take one board and rip it down into, close to equal width pieces, and then I like to mark middle because that just makes them easier to use. And approximate middle is good enough. These don't have to be perfect. Just one of the advantages of marking is then you know where the pivot point's going to be, and I also go ahead and make some sight lines. So when I'm using these, I can tell where I want to put my glue seam, because I want to put the high point right on the glue seam. And now to taper these. There's nothing magical. I have a bench and planes, so I like to do it with hand planes, but you could use a sander or your jointer. Now I like, for something this long, I'll do about 6 passes. So here's my point. I'll go halfway and then split that into thirds and just walk my way back. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on the last one 6. I'm going to start right on the line and smooth it out. Then I'll do the same thing from the other side. We kind of had a miss hit, so I'm going to do this one more time. Here we go. And I just have one pivot point because I'm going to only have one glue seam when I do these. Super easy to make these custom for whatever glue job. So if you had 2 seams, you might want to make 2 high points and then have valley on the middle and each ends. And last thing, because these will be going on glue seams, I put a little bit of plain packing tape where it's going to be on the glue seam, because the last thing you want to do is glue this down to your top. And you might be thinking, man, that's some really nice looking wood. Why are you wasting it? Well, it's cherry, it's domestic, it's pretty common. These are actually offcuts from a previous table that I did, but you do want to use a really hardwood because you're going to put quite a bit of force on these, and if you used pine, it's just going to bend too much, so you won't be able to direct that force right on your glue line to bring your boards flat, and the board will just bend. It's the same reason we put the taper on these, so that way when you apply the force, you're not just squeezing on the ends, you're actually getting the force in the middle of the board at the glue seam to keep them level. All right, glue up time. So one weird thing you'll notice I'm doing here is I have my board up on edge. If I'm just doing a 2-board glue up, I like doing that because then when I tip it, I don't have to worry about my glue sliding off everywhere or anything like that. It's just one of those quirky things. If you like, and I feel like it gives me better access. It's easier to move around, work my clamps. If that's not your thing, that's cool. You do you. All right, so my glue is all spread. I'm ready to set this on, and from my layout, I know that that's the end I'm lining up. So I'm just gonna wiggle this in a little bit, make sure that glue gets spread nice. Slide up. Now, obviously I don't have access to the other side in the middle, so I'm going to put my clamps that go on the end on the back side. There's very light pressure. I just want it set in place. There we go. Now on the ends, I normally don't use cauls because I can reach it with a little clamp, so I'll just use a little F-style. And one thing you'll notice as I do this is I have all my clamps handy, pretty close to set, and right where I need them. That's another tip to a good glue up. Whatever kind of glue up you're doing is always preset your clamps, put them where you're going to need them. Just makes life go a lot easier. All right, and now these are just lightly set. As you see, I have some unbalance here. So it's time for the cauls. All right, so now I'm going to sneak my cauls in here, get them about set. One thing took me a while to realize is that when I clamp these, to clamp them against the top, not floating in the end, because if I clamp them out here floating in the end, there's nothing to hold on to and everything just falls, so you'll fight it. If you're doing it horizontally, it's a little easier. But I'm just going to shim these in place, try to get the line. Oh, this one's way high. Line up my rocker point with the glue seam. Yep. We're actually going to choke these up, get the clamping pressure a little closer to the seam. Cool. Same thing on the end, opposite end. All right, I got my outside cauls on, so I'm just going to squeeze these in a little bit more. One mistake that happens a lot is over tightening your clamps, and if you put too much pressure, there's only one place for that board to go, that's the bow. The cauls will help resist that, but these clamps provide way more force than these will, so you can easily overpower. So you just want, I'm just, very loosely hand tight. And I'm not going to snug this one down until I get the third caul in the middle, but I need to move it to do that. Yeah, this might seem a lot harder to you than just doing it horizontally, but I'm short and have pretty short arms, so reaching across my table to places is a little harder for me. But this way it's easier for me to reach around. But, do you. Now that I've got that caul, I'm just gonna, there wasn't a whole lot. You can see that's pretty easy moving. And then just kind of, once it gets a little tight, I do about 1/8 turn, and that's all she needs. Let's check out the glue seam. So here's her glue seam, and it wasn't perfect, despite my best efforts milling. It moved a little bit, but check that out. It came together super close. That's really not going to be much sanding at all to get perfectly flat. Got pretty good squeeze out. It doesn't have to squeeze out everywhere. That's just more cleanup. So yeah, good to go. So these panels have had a few hours to dry up, so I'm gonna take them out of the clamps and then run it through the sander, because I size these to fit the sander, or planer, just to minimize cleanup, because I've never had a perfect joint, and if they'll fit through the planer, it's a lot faster than trying to sand it smooth. So for gluing the two panels together into the full tabletop, I did it just the same as the two slabs that I put together to make each of the panels before I ran them through the planer. You see I skipped ahead. That's just because it'd been a really boring time lapse. I do the same thing. I'm just a lot slower. I did do this one horizontal instead of vertical because, well, I'm short and, I couldn't reach over this thing, so laying it down, I can just keep running around my workbench, clamping everything. Big things to note, I see I used a few more clamps to get more even pressure. I used my cauls to keep things as flat as possible. For the ends, I just use F-style clamps again. For the clamping pressure, just light, hand tight, just enough to see everything come together. That's pretty much it. So I'm ready to unclamp this, sand everything down. Now, one note on my call making. It's been a while since I made calls and did something like this, so I did make a small mistake that would make this better. Is instead of having a single point, I should have had a flat that was about 2 or 3 inches wide and put that flat over the joint instead of that single point, because I made too much of a pivot. If I had a flat, I might have had slightly better results, but as it is, this is super tight. I'll be able to sand the unevenness out pretty easily with my random orbit sander. You might not be able to see, that's about a 32nd of an inch. That'll sand pretty quick. But I have a few more tips I want to throw you guys for once the tabletop's together. I like to square off the ends on mine freehand with my circular saw. But to get the best results, I throw away the blade that comes with it and spend a little bit of money and get a fine-tooth cross-cut blade. I also make sure that the show face of whatever panel I'm cutting is down, because that side is going to have the least amount of tear out. Preparing for finish and finishing a tabletop is its own topic all by itself. But I do want to mention that if you've taken all this time to make it flat, you want your top to stay flat. And it's really important to finish your top equally all the way around in order to do that. If you put more coats on the top than you do the bottom because the top's going to see more wear, then the moisture exchange isn't going to be equal on both sides of the tabletop, and the wood's going to warp because the moisture's coming in from the top and bottom and leaving at different rates throughout the seasons. The client wanted this dyed, so I did 2 coats of General Finishes dye stain all the way around, and then I've top coated all of that with Total Boat Halcyon Clear. I really like using the Halcyon because it dries fast. I can get all the finishing done in an afternoon, follow up with the top coat in the morning, and it's super hard, so it's great for a tabletop. Don't forget to go download the infographic or print it off from my website so you can keep that with you in the shop as you go through this. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comments. I hope you learned something or at least entertained and are ready to go tackle the next project. Please let me know what you're working on, and until next time, make time to make something.